The new Immolation album has descended. I'm Ravishan from Arupaloka, and today we are going to be talking about Immolation, the death metal colossus from New York. They have 12 full length albums and 2 EPs, and I have all of them on CD. We are going to be going through the discography and ranking them. If you're unfamiliar with Immolation, they really are a band of contrasts. On one hand, there's the infernal heresy of their music, and on the other, there's also this story of hope denied, of innocence betrayed. And between these two ends, your soul is going to be torn apart, and you will go through catharsis and come out with that 1,000-yard stare. So, a little bit about the band. They formed in 1988. The original founding members included Bob Wigner on lead guitar, Ross Dolan on vocals and bass. Those two members have been the constants in their lineup. Original members also included Thomas Wilkinson on guitar and Craig Smilowski on drums. Then in the 90s, the lineup changed a bit. In came Alex Hernandez on drums and Bill Taylor on rhythm guitar. And in the 2000s, there was another change. Steve Shalati took up drums and Alex Brooks took up rhythm guitar. So I have seen them twice live, and they are a transformative experience. Bob Wigner, the lead guitarist, doesn't just headbang on stage. He walks around prancing with his guitar like a weapon smiting at the heavens. Ross Dolan has a very menacing, commanding stage presence. His hair flows out like he's the metal Rapunzel, and he has this very deep growl that still is comprehensible somehow. Very complicated drum work, very intricate interlacing harmonies. If you haven't heard Immolation before, their music really is an anomaly in the music industry, in the music scene. They are known for a highly dissonant sound. They have a individual note selection, tonal palette, and they also have a very unusual sense of rhythm. It feels almost like time, the sense of time is melting when you listen to their songs. There's this odd asymmetry to the riffs. Longer, it doesn't really feel like everything is lined up or anything is lined up sometimes on a real grid. It feels more organic. It feels more what I would call the lurch and heave and swoon of the Immolation sound. That sounds like a lot, but all of it is built on this structure of melodicism. It is dissonant, but it is also very emotive and very intensely passionate music. Anyway, enough about that. Enough Wikipedia. So let's get on to the rankings. Coming in at number 12 is their 2022 album, Acts of God. Caveat here, their discography is impossibly consistent, and I'm fully aware that some of my bottom picks can be someone else's favorite. And speaking of, this album has some fantastic songs. Act of God, the title track, it has all the trademarks of the Immolation sound, the dissonant riffs, the serrated, short cycle, repetitive, grinding grooves, and the trademark pinch squeals and pinch harmonics of Immolation. It really sounds like this demon is tearing through your soul and screaming out everything all the doubts you had about meaning in a meaningless world, and the pain of being totally orphaned in this cold universe. That's what it feels like to listen to Immolation, and you still get that experience on this album. Act of God again has that amazing hysterical solo, if I can call it that, that slowly modulates into this majestic, soaring, harmonic note. Then there are other highlights on this album: Noose of Thorns, Immortal Strain, and Incineration Procession. That last song, Incineration Procession, is probably my favorite on this album. It has this false start with just the rhythm guitar just coming in, making a statement, and then the rest of the band answers in and joins in. Again, great grooves, very menacing music overall, very atmosphere driven music. And it's a great album, and it has 15 great songs. But the reason why it's coming in at last is because it feels like 15 songs. Compared to the rest of the discography, it doesn't feel like there is as much of a thematic unity on this album. Again, can't go wrong. Great album if you want to start off with this band. Great place to start. Acts of God coming in at number 12. All right, coming in at number 11 is their 2007 album Shadows in Light. How can an album this good be this low? It can only happen in Immolation ranking. Like I said, they're impossibly consistent. And this album has great songs: Hate's Plague, Passion Kill, World Agony. Those three songs can be easily included in someone's greatest hits collection from the Immolation catalog. They're that good. The production on this album is very claustrophobic and very percussive. It feels like a lot like Bolt Thrower's For Victory album. There's this militant streak to the percussive rhythms of this album, and Passion Kill has that very memorable percussive gallop that is combined with those pinch squeals again, pinch harmonics again. Those three songs are amazing. They're so amazing that they sort of outshine the rest of the album. The momentum of the first half isn't quite carried through the rest of the album, and that's the reason why this is coming in at number 11. Again, still, I listen to this constantly. It's such an amazing album. And Whispering Death, the last song of this album, has this very grand coda. Immolation, by the way, they are the masters of codas, of making a thematic conclusion to your music. Their songs don't just, end abruptly. There's a message to their songs. Every note has purpose and a reason to be there, and they all end very purposefully. There are these well-designed, well-crafted tales to every song. This version of the CD of mine includes there at the bottom, it includes the Hope and Horror EP. Again, there's that story of contrasts, hope and horror. Those three songs are probably my favorite of this CD: Den of Thieves, The Condemned, and the third song, The Struggle of Hope and Horror. That's a really long instrumental. The longest instrumental they have done to date. There's a very interesting duo of double guitar leads happening in that instrumental, in the struggle of hope and horror. There's the quintessentially Bob Vigna solo, the kind of hysterical, manic solo that's kind of snaking all over the place, and that is answered by this other tonality and other stylistic voice. it's a very interesting contrast, hope and horror. So if you're buying this album, be sure to look out for the version that has the Hope and Horror EP. If not, get the Hope and Horror EPs separately. It is absolutely worth your time and very essential part of the Immolation catalog. All right, so that is number 11. Moving on. All right, coming in at number 10, their 1991 debut, Dawn of Possession. I know I'm committing death metal heresy by putting this album so low. It is a seminal landmark of an album in the metal scene. Really, even in 1991, they have figured out where they wanted to go sonically, and even at that time in the 90s, death metal was really veering into more and more brutality to set themselves apart from thrash metal. And Immolation, along with another seminal band, Incantation, also from New York, they really set themselves apart by focusing on atmosphere instead and storytelling through their music. And that is captured in this album. But it's also an album that shows ambition. And it would be unfair by me if I were to disregard that ambition that they really fulfilled in their later career. If I just, by default put this all the way up there. Into Everlasting Fire. Amazing song with so many tempo changes and rhythmic shifts happening in the song. The quintessential Immolation tremolo pick riffs, the grooves, the pinch harmonics, the kind of Immolation swoon where your body feels like, it's just getting settled into this kind of groove and grid, only for the music to suddenly sort of sweep you from under your feet, and it really feels like you're swooning. Your body, when it starts responding to music of this kind, it really feels like you're possessed by this hellish spirit, and it's just moving you in ways that you do not expect. Those Left Behind, that's, of all the songs here, probably the song that distilled the Immolation spirit the best. It has this very memorable opening with a open note chug that kind of swoons into this tremolo pick riff, and then all of a sudden there's this kind of backwards sounding riff, a kind of short cycle quick repeat riff. Same with After My Prayers. There's this very interesting slow dive of a start and pinch harmonics at the beginning. Again, amazing album. Something to note here, thematically, this band, in my opinion, has three main eras. The first four albums I would call the blasphemous quadrology. All four, they carried a single theme motif to its conclusion. Then in the middle of their career, I'm going to call that the millenarian cult era. Talking about how the world is being driven towards destruction by people trying to find meaning in violent cults. And then came the latter day Immolation, which really thematically shifted to civilizational collapse. And that's sort of where we are right now. And that album we talked about, the past two albums, they sort of belong to that era. All right, so that is number 10. Moving on. So coming in at number 9, from 2013, Kingdom of Conspiracy. Again, I can't believe how an album this good can come so low in any band's ranking. This album is their most misunderstood album. I have read a couple of reviews that they put this album down for being repetitive or badly produced. in defense of this album, the production is purposefully clean. It sounds like surgical steel, like aluminium grinding on aluminium. There's this industrial tone and atmosphere for this album. The riffs are repetitive, but also purposefully repetitive. It really fits the theme of this album. It's about indoctrination and conformity and this feelingless machine, that this dead machine that society has rigidified into. And the music really suits that. And this album probably has, in my opinion, the most memorable, most hummable, most whistleable solos. The lead work is astounding on this album. If you want to listen to the best collection of Immolation solos, this is that album. Kingdom of Conspiracy has this amazing moment in the middle of the song where the song sort of slows down, and then there's a very kind of meandering groove established, and then suddenly there's this kind of soaring, rising kind of movement where Ross Dolan sings out, slowly rising, this luminous power. Amazing moment. The first time I listened to that song, that moment in that song, on that song, that just caught me by surprise. So many great tracks on this. Bound to Order, Keep the Silence, God Complex. Tremendous song. Those pinch harmonics really work well with those repetitive grooves of this album. It sounds a little like Immolation's take on Meshuggah. It sounds like Chaosphere taken through the Immolation palette. And I love Meshuggah and I love Chaosphere, so I love this album. Indoctrinate is one of the best songs they've come out in their career. There's this highly, intensely emotive solo that speaks of desolation in that song. And All That Awaits Us is another one of their tremendous album closers that really winds up the entire theme of this album and puts a musical conclusion to that. Fantastic album. Do not listen to the bad press. Amazing album. So, moving on. All right, where are we? We are in number 8. Coming in at number 8 is Descent from 2026, their most recent album. When I was doing this ranking, I first listened to this album as soon as it came out. I ran to the record store, came out with the CD. I couldn't believe my ears. Could it be that good? Could it be that good this late into their career? I listened to this album, and then I went back and listened to the rest of the discography. I kept coming back to this album because I just wanted to make sure, is this recency prejudice? Is this just because the latest shiny thing? No, it is that good. I did a bunch of tiebreakers on this discography ranking because they're mostly good to great. There are no bad albums, bad songs here. And the reason why this won out, it had the edge over Kingdom of Conspiracy, is because of the variety in songwriting. The other previous album, Kingdom of Conspiracy, had spectacular solos, the best lead work in their career, but still, this has the better, more considered songwriting. Gonna consult a bit of my notes here. These Vengeful Winds, that was a song. It starts with what you suspect to be the standard 3/4 rhythm Immolation riff, the very nasty, dissonant starting riff that Immolation is known for. But then it soon evolves into this really melancholy song of, I wouldn't call it a song of protest as much as I would call it a song of acceptance. Acceptance of the unending degradation of our civilization and humankind the slow, sad descent of what humanity is. Uh, then there's the Ephemeral Curse, also an amazing song. It has these solos that sound like snake charmer melodies, just snaking around the song. Then uh, there is God's Last Breath, one of my favorite songs from this album. It again starts with what you would expect for this album from this band: complicated drum works with this intricate interlacing, uh, complementing and contradicting guitar work from both guitars. And then it it goes into this palm muted gallopy section. It sounds like a stabbing motion. Amazing song. Um, and then there's Adversary, which is really like a song of protest, just a song of defiance. Then there is Bend Towards the Dark. That is my favorite song of this whole of this album. There are goosebump moments on that song where Ross Dolan goes higher. Let me actually check, what does he say? Yeah, higher the flames will soar. That section gave me goosebumps. Then Banished is a very interesting instrumental that they have done. There's the song Banished has a very different, refreshing musical voice, setting itself apart from the standard Bob Wigner fare. There's nothing standard that Bob Wigner does with his guitar, of course, and his compositions, but it really is refreshing to hear this different voice. I don't know whether it was composed by Alex Brooks, that section, and it really adds contrast to the rest of the strident, violent musical motifs of this album, and gives it a moment of despondency or mournfulness. And that song ends with, it joins that Bob Wigner sensibility of dissonance right at the end, and then there's that final song, Descent. So, amazing album. This late into their career, this great. If you are waiting out to see whether this album is worth it, if you're a long-term fan, absolutely worth your time. If you're a new fan, great place to start. All right, so that is, what was that number? That was number 8. So moving on. Coming in at number 7 is their 2005 album Harnessing Ruin. This is another one of their misunderstood albums. This is probably the most musical deviance they've done in their discography. After they kind of refined their musical voice and thematic mission in the first 4 albums, they rarely did this kind of left of field left step, and this was that album. What's different in this, there's a whole lot of melody infused. This is their most melodic, most mournful album music to date. Swarm of Terror has this very, it's almost like they took many steps back from Civilization. They have come to the end of the original blasphemous quadrilogy that I was talking about. And by this album, they were focusing on the here and the now, the political malaise that we are living through, the apocalypse, this very slow, drawn out apocalypse that we are living through. And it was in part, if I'm not mistaken, a response for 9/11 and the horrors that we saw on that day. Swarm of Terror is highly melodic, but also very interestingly dissonant. There is this very kind of fever dream kind of quality to the music when it's just a little off-center dissonant. There is so much melody, so much sweetness but also bitterness. Then there's Our Savior Sleeps, Challenge the Storm, Harnessing Rain. The title track has this very infectious, uh, harmonized tapping section at the beginning. Son of Iniquity, and Dead to Me. Those two songs have these kind of lot of these slow, fast, soft, loud dynamics to play with, and there's actually spoken word sections. Crown the Lyre, amazing song, and At Morning's Twilight, the last song of this album, has a very interesting folk song like quality to it. Highly memorable, absolutely essential album. The production of this album is a bit strange. It sounds a little muffled, but after a while your ear gets used to it. And I've said this before in my previous video. I love to celebrate different production qualities and different production choices of albums, and I would rather bands try to take a chance and express themselves differently than just stick to a formula. Amazing album, and that is my number 7. And moving on, number 6, from 2017, Atonement. I am, by the way, wearing the Atonement t-shirt today. This was when I started getting into this band, this was their most recent album, and I had never heard anything like Immolation. I've listened to a bunch of dissonant bands at that time, but this was way out there. The starting song, Distorting Light, right from the second note, right from there's this kind of ponderous, kind of like open sort of note just right at the beginning, like a clean bell ringing sort of note, and then it goes into this very ugly interval between two repeated notes. It just feels so it feels, it's a violence and a musical it's an active musical violence that I had not experienced before. That is what Distorting Light sounds like. And then that song just breaks down somewhere in the middle, and then it goes into this very wailing groove that ends with these very piercing pinch harmonics. Everything on this album is so memorable. Right now I can, in my head, I'm going through the track list, and I can hum through almost 90% of this album through and through. When the Jackals Come, an amazing song that has one of the most perfect transitions to the next song, Fostering the Divide. When the Jackals Come starts winding down with this very mournful melody, there's this kind of almost atmospheric black metal-ish melody, and then it starts winding down into this sort of drone, and which then modulates into the next song, Fostering the Divide, one of their most popular songs from their, going by I think YouTube stats. It has so many things. That song combines so many things that Immolation is celebrated for. I understand it being that popular. Rise the Heretics, Thrown to the Fire, Destructive Currents, Lower. Lower is another one of those spectacular moments on this album. Atonement, the title track, Above All, The Power of Gods, and Epiphany, another one of those perfect endings to an album. And all of those songs have that quintessential Immolation coda, that very purposeful winding down of the song. They not only know how to start a song, everything has a place in the song. Every note, every structural rhythmic choice they make, it's a part of storytelling. So what can I say? Amazing album. And I feel very bad putting it this low. For the number of times I've listened to this, I still listen to this. But that's what the Immolation discography is. So that is, believe it or not, an album that good is number 6. Moving on. So coming in at number 5 is their 1996 sophomore album, Hereinafter. There is not anything I've listened to in metal that sounds remotely like this. This is an absolutely unmitigatedly bleak album. It almost feels like the production, it's very monochromatic. Everything is just gray, black, and dark, grimy. It feels like you're just struggling in this grimy trench, trying to get out of this stream of tar, and the riffs sound like that. It's this expression of absolute hatred. Nail to God, the first track just sets what Immolation was to become completely apart from the entire musical scene. Burn with Jesus, Hereinafter, Burn with Jesus to Hereinafter, another one of their perfectly executed transitions into song. Burn with Jesus ends with this crescendo, very intense crescendo. It takes to the listener to the point it almost feels like, oh, I just can't bear this intensity. And right then, Hereinafter comes in with this very strange kind of lolloping, galloping, asymmetric, unbalanced sort of riff. I Feel Nothing, another one of their popular songs. It has right in the middle what I would call the Immolation swing. This it feels the riffs are very short and repeated in quick cycles, and it feels like you're just about to fly off the grid, away from God, towards Earth, under the Supreme. Under the Supreme has this very interesting percussive rhythmic section with chugs interspersed with pinch harmonics, and it ends the album on a grand note. Christ's Cage. It's one of the most grandeur expressions of blasphemy. The start of the song is this eerie single note that's bent just out of the scale. Like it's not a real note, it's just like almost microtonal bend. And then it just, the chorus has a tapping section on it. It's a amazing song. If I were to introduce anyone to Immolation, Christ's Cage is the song to go for. That's the perfect introduction to what Immolation is. What can I say? Amazing album. A unique outlier of an album in their entire career. It sounds like nothing else. This album, I think, of all of the Immolation catalog, has been one of the most influential for so many of the bands that have walked the Immolation path. Think of modern bands like Adversarial. They really owe a debt, in my opinion, to this album. One of the most bleakest albums I've heard. Immolation, Hereinafter. And that is number 5. All right, moving on. I mean, from this point onwards, it's like a toss-up. All these albums are so great. I think it's a crime to rank some lower than the other, including the previous album. I understand how this or any album that comes after this can be anyone's number 1. I can understand that. But I decided to do some tiebreakers, and I'll tell you why some albums come above some others. So, number 4 for me is their 1999 album, their third album, Failures for Gods. Now, this took everything that Hereinafter was ambitious enough to dream of and executed it to perfection. The production on this album is controversial. The drums sound like it sounds like it sounds like rain or water in the shower. It's so strange and hollow, um, but nevertheless, the quality of the songs, the compositions, the melodies, that's what makes this album. And I urge you to just bear with the production. I think it was deliberate what they were going for, and in many respects, I actually admire the production. It's so cold, it's so bleak and relentless, and highly atmospheric. This is their most atmospheric album. It feels like this gale of desolation is sweeping through this black landscape. Once ordained, uh, what an opener! It goes into this very eerie breakdown section right in the middle, which with pinch harmonics again, and No Jesus, No Beast is a very, very aggressive song, and then comes the title track, Failures for Gods. This song has like a false end somewhere towards the middle, and then there's a clean break, and then there's this kind of strange bridge, and then they go back to the opening theme, a reprise. Through and through, amazing song, great storytelling. Unsaved is one of my favorite songs from this album. God Made Filth has uh, this very unusual percussive ending to the song. It has this very strange kind of dance, like unholy dance, like coda to the song. And sorry, I'm confusing Stench of High Heaven with God Made Filth. That percussive section comes in Stench of High Heaven. Your Angel Died, and The Devil I Know is my favorite Immolation album closer. The song just it feels like that you're in the middle of this diabolical storm. The riffs just circle and whirl around you, and the song ends on this grand, despondent, majestic modulation. And there's like a key change or something happening right at the end, and then the song just slowly starts dissolving into this murk and atmosphere, and it just fades away. It's one of those thousand-yard stare moments in music. The Devil I Know album, my favorite album closer of theirs. um, I actually, I'm gonna come out and say that I enjoy the production. It suits the album, suits the darkness of the album. Coming, that is number 4, Failures for Gods. Moving on. All right, so only 3 more albums to go. Number 3, from 2010, Majesty and Decay. Again, that story of contrasts, Majesty and Decay. This is, I think, the reason why I put Kingdom of Conspiracy so low and this so high, even though they are almost like brother sister albums of sorts. They're like brother albums. This album accomplished everything Kingdom of Conspiracy was trying to do, and it retained enough variety in songwriting and innovated so much in their career. They brought so much innovation. The opening track, The Purge, there's a kind of atmospheric, eerie opening with what sounds like you're inside this desolate cityscape, a deserted ghost city, and outside you can hear the faint echoes of a war just rumbling on. That's the sort of atmosphere to this album. The Purge just goes right into your face, and there are these very twisted, dissonant riffs that just kind of compete with each other, and it's like call and answer from hell. The Token of Malice, amazing song. And then the title track, Majesty and Decay. is probably my favorite title track of theirs. There's the quintessential Immolation swoon that happens right in the middle of the song, where Bob Vigna does like this very slow dive with the guitar, and a strange dance like groove is established. The solo work has a whole lot of this Middle Eastern flair to it. Inhuman Form, Divine Chord, A Glorious Epoch is another one of their famous songs. All in all, the songs on this album, and from this point onwards, I would say, were very streamlined. They sort of kind of cut down or pared down some of the rhythmic complexity, but it also infused a whole lot of uh, different elements that entered the Immolation DNA. Glorious Epoch in particular, I think that's their most simple, quote unquote, simple sounding song, but nevertheless an amazing, memorable song. Then there's A Thunderous Consequence. The Rapture of Gods is my favorite song from this album. The coda to that song, it's so pained, and it's like this pained epilogue to the end of civilization. And then the album ends with Comfort of Cowards. What can I say? Monumental music, monumental music. Go and listen to the Majesty and Decay. Moving on. All right, speaking of Majesty and Decay, at about the same time, they came up with this other EP of theirs, Providence. Do not sleep on this album, this EP. All 5 tracks are tremendous. I don't know whether I would in a ranking put this far up, but I consider this to be a sort of a companion piece to Majesty and Decay. It kind of continues that sound and thematic, it's a thematic continuation. What they bring, Illumination, Still Lost, Providence, Swallow the Fear. Swallow the Fear has this amazing vocal section where Ross goes, I've forgotten the lyrics, but fantastic album. Choke on the Fear, yeah, that's the section. This is another one of those goosebump moments where Ross goes, choke on the fear, swallow the fear. It's a fantastic album. Do not ignore or sleep on this. Moving on, so 2 albums to go. Number 2, from 2002, their 5th album, Unholy Cult. So this is the start of what I would call the millenarian terrorism era, where the themes of Immolation shifted from the blasphemy of their first 4 albums, and they moved on to how much damage faith is doing in the world. So the first song of Martyrs and Men, very, very, there are so many dissonant, cruel riffs in that song. This album has immaculate production. It's dark and crisp and gritty and hairy. Very menacing album. Ross Dolan's voice is it comes from the depths of hell, and it resonates through the skies. And the bass is really prominent too on this album. The sinful nature of Martyrs and Men has a very interesting, one of their best breakdowns right in the middle. Unholy Cult, the title track is amazing. Wolf Among the Flock, Reluctant Messiah, and A Kingdom Divided. Really, every single moment on this album is perfect. There is no filler moment. There is no waiting in. It's a relentless album. It goes from start to finish, just churning away, and it feels a lot shorter than it is because it's so thematically cohesive. Then there's Rival Eminent, which has this spectacular percussive ending to the song. One of their best, most memorable, and strident codas that they have written. Then finally it ends with Bring Them Down. Again, one of those beautiful, grand, majestic closures for the album. It really starts bringing the rounding up the theme of the album and slows down, winds down into this melancholic, repetitive melody. Fantastic album. What more can I say? Absolute musical landmark, The Unholy Cult. And that is number 2. All right, so we are at number 1 now, and this may be an obvious choice. From 2000, their 4th album and the conclusion to the original blasphemous quadrilogy, Close to a World Below. What Immolation is, the first 4 albums, their theme was really about, they have this inverted theism of some kind. According to them, universe is actively malevolent. If there is some higher power, it is a sadistic higher power. There probably isn't heaven, but there definitely is hell, and we are in it. So this album really brought that theme to a conclusion, and it wrapped up the musical mission that was started on that first album. And by the way, there's a sort of thematic connection in the album art as well. If you have noticed, the first album has these angels and demons fighting for dominance. Again, that story of innocence raped. Then there is the second album where the angels and demons have both fallen down to the depths, and they're just asking the heavens for something that will never come. Then there is this third album art that the divine reveals himself, the covenant is betrayed, and the true nature of evil is revealed. And then there's the 4th album, that's the conclusion to that whole theme. Higher Coward, what a tremendously shocking starter for an album. It just goes straight into blast beats. It feels, sonically, this album makes you feel like you are in hell, you are being immolated with hellfire. If someone were to try to find a musical language to explain, express what hell is like, and this would be that album. There's so much crackle and hiss between the notes that comes through, purposefully comes through, that really feels like your skin is set on fire. Then there's Father, You're Not a Father. They're probably their most famous or notorious song of their catalog. Has this eerie 3/4 melody or rhythm riff that goes on in the beginning, and then it has this kind of uneven rhythmic structure. There's like 3/4 riffs, and then there's like a 4/4 something, and then goes back to 3/4. It creates this weird kind of elastic movement. Then there's Furthest from the Truth, Fall from a High Place. The transition again from Fall from a High Place to Unpardonable Sin is another one of those perfectly executed transitions where it goes from this drone to near static to the start of Unpardonable Sin. Sorry, I'm mistaken. It's actually the transition from Unpardonable Sin to Lost Passion. Then there's Put My Hand in the Fire. and Close to a World Below. It really brings to closure the thematic whole of the first four albums. I remember first time hearing this album, I came into this album thinking, oh, I don't believe in God or anything to begin with. How can this music really move me at all? And I was just arrested by the sincerity of this music. When I say Immolation is a transformative experience, I I'm pretty sure if you are someone with faith, you would react to this quite the same way that someone faithless would react to Bach. It would be just as transformative. Uh, if you are not transformed at the end, that's probably the limitation of music, or maybe it's the limitation of you. And the song concludes on this unbearable sadness of this very tapering down, this melody that starts tapering down into thin air. And when the album ends out, there's like a very faint ghostly echo of that melody that fades out into nothingness, and you're left just waiting for some kind of hope, some kind of resolution. And what that last few notes and that trailing away, that fading away says is none is coming. So there you go. My number one for Immolation. But really, the quality of their discography varies so little. There is, like I said, good or great. So I understand if, somewhere in the middle, if somebody's favorite is my bottom, or my favorite is someone else's bottom. I just went by how significant these albums are compared to their discography and their musical mission. So that's it. That brings to a conclusion the ranking of Immolation. So I'm gonna do some more of these ranking videos for the bands that mean a lot to me. And the next Arupaloka song is in the works. I'm very excited to say it will be popping out soon. So subscribe, like, blah blah blah, and over and out.